Good morning. Figured I'd do this update because I keep getting a lot of questions, and I'm okay with them. I'll answer them until I'm no longer on YouTube or whatever platform. But I just want to do an update about the KAYO K6 EFI, the 21 version I have. I don't portray anything or try to get you guys to do anything, sway you any other way. The bike is still doing great, and recently I had a buddy who's trying to get back into dirt biking, and long story short, we ended up doing some bartering, and he's got that bike now. It's still real close to the family because we ride together. Mainly we're both workers and we ride as much as we can, and you know, I play in the woods behind my house, which is about 250 acres, and he might eventually start going to some of our riding parks and ride around in his yard. I don't know. But that bike has been fantastic. Recently, we did realize it was time to fix the front brake issue. I've been really open about the front brake on that bike was never the greatest thing in the world. And I think after he's a mechanic, and I'm done being a mechanic, but he does it for a living. But you know me, I rebuild dirt bikes, I fix them, I'm constantly working on them. My sons and mine upgrading them or fixing whatever problem occurred. And that front brake has always been real, like spongy, not necessarily as grabby as like a Japanese bike. And after troubleshooting it, it ended up being the master cylinder. We don't know because he bought an extra one off of Amazon, and it got to him and it was junk too. And then we started second guessing ourselves and going back and forth through calls, and he was like, I took one off my four-wheeler off of I think it was a Honda or a Yamaha four-wheeler, put it on there and it worked fine. He said the whole time we just got a bad master cylinder. Apparently, like all these master cylinders, whether they're stamped for whatever company or they're telling you they're coming straight out of China, there's been a real issue with parts lately for a lot of things. I'm sure anybody that's bought anything these days knows it's hit or miss whether it's going to be junk or not. But as far as the bike, it's not down on power. It doesn't overheat. Every once in a while, the head gets a really tight tolerance and it wants a brake. That's never changed. It's the same thing. And like I said, you have to be getting in it, or you have to be doing some real slow technical stuff where you're lugging the motor really hard for it to happen. That has happened 3 times in the entire bike's life, and it did happen to him once he took over the bike. But we was in a creek, and it was after he got in a little tumble and broke his brake lever off, but he was able to replace that. I just, you know, I'm still loving my YZ. I'm a 2-stroke guy. I've always been. There was nothing available when I bought my bike where I would have bought a 2-stroke. And if, to be honest with you, if KAYO would have had their 2-stroke in, I would have thought that was a better buy for what I paid for my Yamaha. I mean, if I could have got out the door for less than $6,000 on that KAYO KT250 versus me sitting there and spending damn near $10,000 on a YZ250X, I definitely would have went with the KAYO, and I think I would have been completely happy. There's plenty of upgrades to make more power on that bike, but the lightness of a 2-stroke in the woods, there's nothing to compare to it. That is why, still to this day, you're starting to see these guys switch over to the 4-strokes for the torque power. But really, if you ask them in all fairness, like, what would you rather have in the woods? They'll tell you a 2-stroke. They just want that off-the-bottom torque that you can rarely achieve with the 2-stroke unless you have perfect tuning. I'm pretty sure that mine is pretty close to a 4-stroke as far as like off the hit, but I do understand that 4-stroke is always going to win in first and second gear as far as torque power. you just can't compete with these new fuel injected 4-strokes. You just can't. It's a hard thing to swallow for 2-stroke lovers, but like I said, I just wanted to be open about what is going on with the KAYO. Hopefully I can get some riding footage with me and him. I did go out and buy the new DJI action camera. Spent a bunch of money on it. We've done a couple of trials and tests with that. It's turning out to be a pretty good camera. Haven't got it all figured out yet, but I'm hoping to post some videos of me and him riding together. And it's really cool to be able to put him on that bike in front of me and me be behind him. And the torque on his bike is crazy. Like, he can put it in first gear and climb up a hill and not have to worry about revving it out too much. But then in first and second gear, if I'm pinning it and I ain't got to worry about technicality, my 2-stroke will eat his bike up. So it's a weird trade-off with 2 and 4 strokes, you know, and I realized this when I owned them both, that I would prefer the 2-stroke and kind of like lack in that first and second gear, like just overall brute torque versus having the hit in the mid to highs. And that's my honest opinion about it. And as far as my bike goes, it's built to the hill, other than the fact that I have not upgraded the cylinder head yet, but everything else around it is it's not fair to compare it to any stock bike anymore. So I don't try to do that, because after you start putting money in these 2-strokes, they become a different animal, to the point where they're almost scary to ride for people that have never jumped on the bike whenever it was stock. I've slowly upgraded it to the point to where now, like, I can notice when a back tire is about 50% used up, and I want that 100% back, because it gets real scary after you get down to about 40% of a tire left, because it's got so much power. But that's my update on it. If there's any questions, I will give you the answers I have available to me. The KAYO thing is really one of those things where you buy the bike, it's going to last you forever. Excuse me, unless you do something stupid and wreck it and you snap the frame. You can replace every part on it. Every part on it is either KTM or Honda, other than the motor. And like I told you, good luck blowing that motor up unless you just don't care for it at all. Like, you'd have to just not care at all to blow that motor up. And I'm sorry this video was so long. It's just, there's no way to be like, yep, great bike, buy it for sure, and then have people convinced, you know, give them the whole story, you know, the truth. Who cares, you know, what other people think? You know, nowadays, GPX, look at them. They're up there now in these enduro crosses, competing with KTM, Husqvarna. Yamaha doesn't even have a foothold in the door anymore, because they don't make an electric start bike. And I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of people just, they can't get past that. Whenever you hit the button on a electric start 2-stroke, it works. But when you're on a hill on a YZ250 or 125 or 80, you have to kick it. You need both feet sometimes. So that's why a lot of people don't buy YZs to do enduro cross stuff. And if they do buy a YZ, they buy the 4-stroke version, and it's just, to me, not the same. But as far as I can say, I think you couldn't go wrong with the EFI K6 or the carbureted K6 or the KT250. And if I had to do it from scratch, I'd honestly say that I'd probably get the 2-stroke version if it was available. There's plenty of upgrades, just like the K6. And the one thing you know for sure when you have that 2-stroke is it's going to be lighter. It just is. It's a lighter bike when it comes to it. It's not just about what it weighs on the scale. It's what it feels like when you're riding it. It's just a lighter bike. 100% a lighter bike. All right, guys. Until next time.